Oh, Bradley Ream hits the wall. He comes down to 37. They both spin in the front stretch. Caution is out. Oh, we got a huge pile up. Johnny Hernandez, Nick Sant, Sean Ard, Carter Boyd, Braden Carruthers, Ryan Wilson. Many cars torn up here. So this was coming off of turn 4 here. The 22 and 21 were side by side for positions here. Oh, looks like the 22 came up on the 61, then came down on the 37. Sent them both spinning and everyone else just piling in. Jordan Scout got some airtime there. Nick Sant on top of Slayer. Ryan Wilson also involved as we're on board here with Nathan Baird. On board with Nick Sant here. Oh boy, this is going to be a loud one. Got cars right up there in the wall. I think this man DJ in the 28 is one of them. We got a car around. It's Lipsy. He saves it, but more cars around in front stretch. Mountain Dew fan for life. HS to the 61. Aiden Thomas. Johnny Hernandez in the wall. Nick Sant goes for a spin. Jason Albert has damage. The 66 goes up in the air. Sabretooth in the 66. Flipping here at Darlington. And will land on this roof. The caution's already out here in the Southern 500. Hit the wall there. Everyone on the inside trying to avoid him and check up. Oh, I think Aiden Thomas got into Lipsy there. They save it. Oh, the 61 of HS came down on both the 03 and the 55. And then Lipsy made contact coming back on the track of Aiden Thomas. Sent Johnny Hernandez into the wall. Heavy damage from 46 cars. Sabretooth. Oh my god. Got hit by Nargan Scott in the 86. Sent them upside down in turn number 1. Hope he was alright after that. Let's go on board with Aiden Thomas here. Yeah, everyone on the outside just hits the wall there. And then out of 4 here. Oh, gets into the side of Lipsy there, as you can see. And Lipsy comes back on the track. Oh, it's just the 69 for a spin. Not too much damage, I don't think, for the 69 as he sees the flipping barrel roll car of Sabretooth. On board with Kellen Baker here. There in the picture in 5th as he's side by side with Johnny Hernandez. Says, oh, we got a spinner. Nick Sant gets turned by Brito. Back up on the track they go. A big wreck in turn 1. Oh, Aiden Thomas for the championship drivers involved. Nathan Baird, Mountain Dew fan for life. Sean Ard. I think Brad Ream has a little bit of damage there, as 2 of your championship drivers have heavy damage. Oh, Braden Carruthers got into the Nick Sant, just turned him. And both of them go back up to the track, and just nowhere for Aiden Thomas to go, and all these guys behind him either pile in or get stacked up here, trying to avoid him. Brad Ream, a little bit of damage in that 22 car. Sean Arden gets turned around. He's gone board with Brandon Carruthers here. On board with Brad Ream here. Yeah, for the most part got through that. Only had a little bit of contact with Sean Ard there at the end. On board with Aiden Thomas. Out into the front stretch. Looks like Jordan Stout that time by led a lap, but Braden Carruthers is in the 1 with the advantage. Oh, Bradley, leave him up in the air. What a scary impact there on his roof. Nargan Scott, Devin Payment also have damage as we're under caution yet again. So looks like going into turn number 1. Oh, Nargan Scott just taps the 35 and sends him up into the air, bouncing off the wall there. Very scary impact there for the 35 of Brad Ream. On board for Nargan Scott here. Yep, just tapped him. Oh my god, just sent him up in the air on his roof there for a second. On board with Devin Payment again. Oh my goodness, nowhere to go there. The 88 car is also involved in the first accident today. So Brad Rim gets turned and a huge pileup happens here in the back straightaway. Dominic Payment, John McFadden, Aiden Robertson, Jordan Stout with damage. Richard Herman in 95, among others, involved. David Johnson on his roof into turn number 1. RC Gamer in the 42 also with damage, and Jason Albert in the 80 car. So this is coming off turn number 2. Brad Ream was in front of the lap car of Redding Carruthers. Turned off 2. Carruthers just turns Brad Ream, and while that happened, Dominic Payment ended up coming up on RC Gamer and I believe Nottingham Scott, and just a huge pileup as all the other cars just pile in. And after that, Jordan Stout actually got turned there a little bit, and after that, this is coming off turn number 4. Looks like we're 4 wide into turn number 1, and boom, just Johnson makes contact with Jason Albert and just sends that 2 car up in the air. And RC Gamer hitting his back window. Let's go on board for RC Gamer. Looks like Dominic actually came up above him and Kyle Salmon. My apologies there for mistaking him for Nottingham Scott. And as RC escaped from that first wreck, the second wreck happens. Oh my god. You know, in short tracks, it's pretty common to see cars right behind the back bumper of one another. But certainly not up both past winners here in the Summer Series. As Johnny Hernandez gets turned, there's been another big pileup here in the front straightaway. Jordan Stout, Brady Carruthers, Matthew Hill, Aiden Robertson, and many others as the cautions back out again. And Jordan Stout, this is the second time he's been involved in an accident here today. So we're off of 4 here. Miles turns Hill, who turns into Hernandez, sends Hernandez hard into the wall. And just is on from there. Ross McTrain, Jordan Stout, Trey Smith, Aiden Robertson, Brady Carruthers with heavy damage on that 4 car. Man, so many good cars torn up as we're on board with Jordan Stout here. Saw the wreck happen, but there's nowhere to go. Hits the 35 of McTrain. Hard into the wall, goes the 11. Like I said, he'll be done for today. Massive implications here in the points. So I was well behind all this when this first began, but then it hits the teammate Brandon Carruthers hard into the driver door. Jesus Christ, that was a hard hit for the winner for your winner a couple nights ago. Episodes this time by left. So Hernandez and Sean get turned into front stretch. Cautions also, Hill gets involved. Hernandez on his roof. So this is gonna be Hill Drake, Aiden Robinson involved. Roberto Crown, Brandon Carruthers, and I believe the 3 of Barrett also got involved in that as well. Caution out back out again. As you see the 90 Matthew Hill on his roof and Sean Ard. So off of 4 here comes Owen Miles. Turns Hernandez, and then Hernandez turns into Sean Ard, and it's just on from there. My goodness, a hard hit there from Matthew Hill, and here comes Robertson. Bam! Into the 90 car, just with Carruthers and Barrett having nowhere to go there. Definitely a very violent wreck. Eliminating several championship favorites here tonight. Racing on board for Matthew Hill again. And you can see just almost nowhere for him to go. There goes Robinson. Bam! Hard hit there from Robertson, who just lost the camera there. Speaking of which, racing on board with the 48 car. Yeah, that was just hard leg. And Carruthers actually on his side there a little bit as well. Definitely an unfortunate end to what was a really good season for Ada Robertson. Number 4, he was 3 wide with the 88 and 01. As Caleb Rose and Clifton make contact and go off the track. They save it, gonna come back onto the field. Oh my goodness, causing the big wreck here in the front stretch. No, my goodness. The 16 of Baird crowned up against the fence in the 21. The 10 of Miparola pretty much over half the field here as we're under caution again here in the Pepsi Showdown. I have no idea what the hell the 5 and 17 were thinking there. They should have went on pit road, and I just don't know. Looks like Rose and Clifton around a room went down to the apron, did a good job of saving it here, and instead of being a sensible person just coming on pit road, they said come back on the track in front of the entire field, and my god, both the 10 and the 21 up against the catch fence, and just what a violent wreck. We're on board with Clifton here. And yeah, Clifton was literally on that yellow line, just again going to showing that this track cannot support 4 wide in any capacity at all. And eventually the 2 made contact, sending both those cars below the apron and into the grass before coming back onto the track in front of the entire field. Just man, oh man. Let's go on board for Oscar Parola. And yeah, once those 2 came back onto the track, there's pretty much nothing you could have done there, as the 10 took a wild ride up against that fence. But despite that, Bradley's going to get a great run through the corners and maintain his lead over the 97. Off of 4 down this mini straightaway into turn number 5. Bradley continues to maintain his gap over Stapleton. So Joe T's around up in the air. Keith Chargerson, Xavier, and Lipsy involved in this as well, as you're under caution again here at Papyrus. And man, just another violent wreck with another car going airborne. I just saw the destroyed race car of Richardson. We're going to start in the corners of turns 3 and 4, where the racing was almost like we never left Daytona or Talladega. So watch the OT&E car here, goes 4 wide off turn number 4. And then once it comes up turn number 5, oh, he hits the safer barrier transitions and just caused the mass chaos from there. With Lipsy, Xavier, and Richardson having nowhere to go there. Let's go on board with Keith Chargerson here. Just, oh my god. Absolutely nothing you could have done there. As Richardson would end his bad day here today in the garage. Let's go on board with Caleb Rose here. Oh my goodness, what do we sent Joe T flying there? Unbelievable. As Rose will get heavy front end damage. Can they finally sort this mess out? There's contact between Stout and Staple as around goes the entire front of the pack. Oh my goodness, that's the 43 of Daniel Rice, who almost went up against the catch fence in the 43. Random J's involved, Trey Smith's involved, Bradley Ream, Jason Albert, and many, many others are under caution for the big one here at Daytona. And this is still not over. Stout gets into Albert as well as Lipsy, as Albert comes in right in front of Trey Smith as it sends the 80 car barrel rolling in the one. Oh my goodness, I don't have any words, honestly, to explain what's going on right now. But back to the... So off of 4, despite Masters being stuck in between in the middle and outside, he gets that strong run off the corner, goes right behind Albert. That still makes Staples stuck 4 wide, coming back to the tri-oval. And as Stout moves up to the inside, he collects Staple, Burnett, and just all the chaos unfolds from there. Nowhere for a lot of these drivers to go. Everyone here is just pure victims of over-aggressive driving up front. And you can see even after the fact, into turn number 1, Albert and Breen making contact alongside Stout and Lipsy. But then comes Trey Smith, bam, right into the driver's side door of Albert, which sends that 80 car barrel on Bradley Ream in the 6. And it looked like Bradley was going to miss it initially, but then gets hit by Trey Smith. It's in that 6 car around and getting heavy front end damage as a result. And then here's the second part of the wreck where Albert gets flipped on his side. Bam! Hard hit into Albert's driver's side door. Hopefully he's okay from that. You know, of course, Colin Baker in third is the former Golf Summer Series champion. And as for the other 2 golf champions of Wilson and Hernandez, they're both on the outside of the lane trying to maintain their spots through turns 3 and 4. There's been a contact between the 2 champions as now Hernandez gets turned right in front of Joe T. He's going to go around and come back onto the track for the Taurus. It's going to be a huge wreck. Random, Beal, Gutierrez, and others involved as now Hernandez is on his roof barrel rolling several times. And just like that, Hernandez went from being on the pole to being on his roof. And this wreck is going to take out several big-name drivers. Brendan Beal, Random J, Gutierrez, Keyshawn Richardson, Caleb Rose, Madison Chase. Just so many big names all out of this race on just lap number 2. So watch here. Joe T maintains the inside. Hernandez looks to the inside of Wilson, but then the 2 touch, causing both Hernandez and Joe T to spin out. But then once Hernandez comes back onto the track, this is where it starts to get really, really big. All those poor drivers on the outside, nowhere to go. With Hernandez on his roof, barrel rolling several times in an 88. And then as that happens, watch Braden Carruthers trying to go down pit road to avoid, but then all 3 of those cars of Richardson, Carruthers, and Rose hit the wall, and then Richardson, for whatever reason, gets turned by Carruthers. Not really sure what was that all about, but Richardson's car, regardless, is destroyed. So Brennan Taylor made contact. They both go in the wall in front of the entire field. It's going to be a huge wreck. But with Hernandez, Stapleton, Mattiello, Baker, it's going to cause another caution already here in Minnesota. So Taylor moves down the racetrack. Burnett maintains the middle. But then in the 3, Taylor comes up while Burnett comes down. Both of them making contact and sending each other into the wall in front of the entire field where a lot of these drivers had absolutely nowhere to go. A lot of big-name drivers, but I think probably the biggest out of all of them was Anthony Hernandez, but let's go on board with Matt Burnett here to see his point of view. So Burnett maintains the middle, but then comes down, but then they realize Taylor is there. Instead, takes a nasty lick into the outside wall. Thank God for those safer barriers, as Burnett's night so I couldn't come to an end. Let's go on board with Skylar Taylor. Yeah, again, Taylor had a run on the inside, tried to move up, but instead made contact with Burnett. And the rest just all unfolded from there. 51. Oh, Bubble gets turned in the wall. No, Joe T up in the air in the 8 car. Oh my goodness. Keyshawn Richardson, Kellen Baker, and I think Philip Torres again involved in this massive wreck as there's heavy smoke from the upside down car of Joe T. So Bubble gets forced to the outside by Joe T. And then Keyshawn Richardson forces Joe T right next to Bubble, and Mattiello gets a run, making it 4 wide. And it's just not enough room for those 4 drivers to make 4 wide work. Bubble getting sent into the sand trap and then back in front of the field in front of Kellen Baker, with Keyshawn Richardson, I believe, being the one that flipped over Joe T. And looking this from another angle, again, there's just not enough room for those 4 drivers to go 4 wide there. Yeah, a combination of Ryan and Richardson sending Joe T up in the air. Heavy smoke coming out of his car. And now it's gone on board with Bubble in the 18 to see her point of view. And she was probably in the worst possible place to be in this type of wreck. She was on the outside lane. Not much could have done except for hang on. Oh my god, Bubble went briefly airborne. And it looked like Bubble had it mostly missed, but then she hit that inside wall that sent her spinning back onto the racetrack and caused all, off of 4. Both Angel and Johnny are still side by side for the final top 10 spot. Zombie Brewers in the wall into the air alongside Kyle Stride. Oh my goodness, we have a massive wreck here in the entrance of turn number 5. So Ruiz gets a run on the bottom, as well as Dylan Matthews as she peeks to the inside of Ruiz to make contact off of 4 since Ruiz off the track. But then as Ruiz comes back onto the track, he hits that safer barrier transition with absolutely nowhere to go for all the other drivers around him, and resulted in both Ruiz and Kyle Stride to go up in the air. Taking this from another angle. So definite contact between both Matthews and Ruiz, which sent Ruiz off the track. But again, just hits that safer barrier transition, almost very reminiscent of what happened to Joe T in the Golf Summer Series race here in 2022. In fact, it was that exact part of the racetrack that Joe T hit that caused an equally massive wreck in that race a few years back. Let's go on board with Dylan Matthews. So Matthews definitely gets a run on the bottom, and then peeks her nose on Ruiz trying to set up a pass. Instead, the two make contact since Ruiz off the track. And at this point right here, we were 4 wide and just not enough room for Ruiz to emerge back onto the track. My god. And speaking of which, let's go on board with Baby Ruiz. Hang on, folks. This is going to be a wild ride. I don't know if these cameras are even going to survive this. So that's that initial contact right there. And then, boom, right there. Oh my god. Oh my goodness gracious Christ. Gap with Nick Sam will be at this time buys. Oh, Alex Morgan's turn coming to the front straight away. Benny Watson joining Styles. Oh, Mullen's on his side, riding the wall. And oh my god, what is this? The 3rd straight PSO race we've seen a car go on its roof dating back to last year's race at Minnesota. But regardless, this will bring up the caution already here in Japan. So Mullen is forced through to the outside. Here comes a run from both Benny Watson and Jordan Stout. And then off of 4, Stout gets into the 08 car, sends him in front of the 11 and the 79. And then Mullen comes back onto the field in front of Matthew Huber, and it was on his side, right, almost riding the wall up against the catch fence. And the 08 is on his roof, for Keyshawn Richardson is the one that tips the 08 car back on all 4 tires. So we'll take notes from up above. So again, Jordan Stout gets into Alex Mullen, essentially squeezes him and Benny Watson into one another, sends the 08 car around in front of Stout, of Caleb Rose getting some damage, making contact with Jordan Stout's left rear. And then Stout gets into the 79 again, sends both cars up the track with Mullen into the wall, and eventually on his side, pretty much wall riding right up against the catch fence. And as you see, all those other drivers behind, like Jack Haas, Matthew Hubert, Matthew Burnett, fast on the brakes, with Burnett and Richardson all coming to a complete stop to avoid making any serious contact with Haley Anderson. And Al Bunch definitely bumped the 24 and the 03 there. And we'll take a look at this one more time in real time. And like what I was saying earlier, this is exactly why the inside is the best place to be at these flatter tracks. As if you're stuck in the middle and outside, something like this could happen and effectively end any chances of you winning here today. Now let's go on board with Jordan Stout to see his point of view. So Stout got a big run off of 4 in the middle, but at this point right here, there's just not enough room for 3 cars to go 3 wide here. It sent both Watson and Mullen around. Ooh, heavy contact from Jack Haas, his teammate there as well. Let's go on board with Matthew Hubert. So this happens right in front of him. Does he avoid? Oh man, he actually made a little bit of contact with Alex Mullen that ultimately sent him on his side. Here. It looks like off the dogleg, Bradley's going to clear Torres into turn 3 and 4. Whoa, he gets in this down, so he stays it. Oh, Stable gets into 4, so it's into the wall of everyone else piling in behind. Oh my goodness, and just like that, we're back under the caution flag late here in Vermont with several drivers piling in. Jason Albert, Caleb Rose went spinning there. I think Lipsy was on his roof in the 9 car. Heavy damage to Benny Watson and Roberto Crown. 2 drivers up there, of course, in the points. Kyle Schuss drive damage, and damage also to Matthew Burnett. Oh my goodness. So all just started off the backstretch dogleg. Of course, the leaders are Bradley Ream, Jordan Flores, and Nathan Stapleton, and everyone else behind them are trying to get around the lap drivers just up ahead of Jordan Stout in the 11 and the 41 of Philip Torres. So Stout and Torres are to the outside, but into turns 3 and 4 here, as Stout moves down, he comes down right in front of Bradley, sends him around, but they manage to save it. But that causes a chain reaction with Staple getting into Ford, sends those two into the wall, with everyone else behind all piling in, with Lipsy going on his roof there. So let's take a look at this from up above. So you know the leaders got around Torres just fine, but then comes Jordan Stout now into turns 3 and 4, moving down in front of Bradley Ream. Sends the 11 car around, but even though both Ream and Stout managed to save it, it causes a huge chain reaction. It stacks up everyone else behind them, with Staple getting in the Forbes, with Torres going in the wall as well, with, again, pretty much everyone piling in right behind, with absolutely nowhere to go for any of these drivers. Let's go on board with the defending series champion, Jordan Forbes. So again, they're able to get around Torres just fine, but then here comes Jordan Stout into turns 3 and 4 here, moving down in front of Bradley Ream to make contact, and Forbes on the brakes, stacks up everyone behind him, with Staple getting into the 16-1, sends him into the wall and around. Definitely a tough break for the defending series champion of Forbes, as he came to this race 6 in the point standings after a rather mediocre firecracker, so this is going to have a huge impact in his hopes of defending his championship. On board of Nathan Stapleton. So Staple was essentially forced up to the outside by his own teammate, Matthew Hubert. But then here comes the contact between Stout and Ream coming up. Bam. And as a result, both Forbes and Staple go on the brakes, with Staple slowing down and getting into the right rear of Forbes, which was pretty much the biggest catalyst of all of this carnage happening. On board of Madison Chase, who was just outside the top 10 when all this started to unfold. So you see everyone in front of her and behind her slowing down. She tries to avoid, but there's just nowhere for her to go. It's in the Riley Spurley, heavy front end damage there for the 06. Definitely tough break for Madison, who's had an absolutely terrible season up to this point and was having a decent day going for her up until this happened.